America. We were living in the east by the Nile River, living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
Keep the call, y'all. It's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad said 6 words to us, and these were the 6 most powerful words that he spoke. He said, accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own. The Caucasians who brought our fathers into slavery desired to take us away from our own people, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, our own language. So we have grown up in America away from our own mind, away from our own selves, and so we have been actually indoctrinated with an alien mentality.
10,000 fearless men, because we're going to have to challenge the things that are destroying our community. So this ain't no punk time. This ain't no temple time, mosque time, or church time. All the singing and shouting and preaching is over. Get in them streets now. Block by block. We're going to have to clean it up. The airwaves is not enough. The television screen is not enough. You got to put boots on the ground who are trained and are willing to make the sacrifice of life itself to see our community made a decent place to live.
Attention. Drill.
Soldiering is a part of the Nation of Islam, and it readies all of us to obey the commands of God. Now some will ask, well, why military drill? Because this is what produces the camaraderie.
Facebook and Instagram thought that they could ban the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
But in reality, they can't, because he already lives in us and millions of others.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Allah, Master Fard Muhammad, the one true and living God to whom praise is due forever. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger. Peace, family, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of WHID-FM. WHID-FM is your personal platform where those of us striving to follow the life-giving and life-saving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as given to us by his premier pupil, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gather right here in this virtual meeting place to answer that most critical question: what has Islam done for me? It's Sunday, October 6th, and at this time, we're going to turn it over to that dynamic co-host of WHID-FM, our sister, Janine Muhammad, who is a superstar student here in the ministry at Muhammad Mosque, number 6, under the leadership of our beloved brother, student Imam Abdul Salam Muhammad. Sister Janine.
Assalamu alaikum, family, and thank you again for joining us for another episode of WHID-FM, What Has Islam Done For Me? We thank you for tuning in each and every week to hear the various stories from our guests about what Islam has done and continuing to do for them. I'm going to introduce our guest tonight, which our first guest is Brother Vernon Muhammad, who was raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and has been a registered member of the Nation of Islam since 1998. He works full-time building and developing young Black men and boys by helping them find their why and connecting them with the resources that put them on a constructive, successful pathway. Brother Vernon authored his first book in April of 2020, titled The Majesty of the Woman, and he is currently working on 2 other projects. He is committed to helping improve the conditions and quality of life in all communities and hopes to serve as a young role model for young men. Brother Vernon is a father of 6 children, 2 boys and 4 girls. He has been married to his wife, Tamia Moore, his high school sweetheart, for 24 years. So we'd like to welcome Brother Vernon to the show tonight. And our next guest is Brother Zaire Allah, who was a registered member of the Nation of Islam under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who was originally from Brooklyn, New York. He joined the Nation of Islam in Greensboro, North Carolina in November of 2021. But he's currently in Houston, Texas at Muhammad Mosque number 45. He's working on building a fruit distribution network for the city of Houston by way of going to non-GMO and organic fruit farms to provide good quality food to Black people and others in the city of Houston. So we'd like to welcome you both on the show tonight. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you all for having me.
Praise be to Allah. Now I'm going to get us started with the first questions of the evening. So, Brother Vernon, I'll go to you first. You're not a stranger to our show, of course, and no stranger in Baltimore. So can you give us the reason, what inspired you to write the book, The Majesty of the Woman?
Praise be to Allah. Well, first, I'd like to offer my salutations to yourself, as well as your guest, and the greetings of Assalamu alaikum.
Nice.
And just to thank you all for having me. So I remember the first time I was asked that question, and I was confused. I was perplexed. I was like, man, it's so many things that motivated and inspired me to write that book. But the most simplistic of all was just the fact that I had come into the knowledge of the value of women and the female, and through the teachings, of course, through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and just me being able to have that picture of what the true value and essence of women were, and then seeing what was provided by the world that I lived in, the neighborhood, the society that I lived in, my peer group. I know that it failed miserably when you compared the two. And I also had 4 daughters. Well, at the time I started working on that material, I had 3 daughters. So I just wanted to do something to kind of show not just my peer group, but potentially the world and society, so on and so forth, or maybe even contribute to the body of work that existed through the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And Brother Zaire, my next question is for you. So can you tell us, as becoming a member of the Nation of Islam, what inspired you to join the Nation of Islam? Because so many people hear the teachings, but some just pass through and may not make the decision to join completely. So what made you decide, I want to be a member of the Nation of Islam?
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Islam, sir.
I'm working on. I apologize. This camera is giving me issues saying that your browser's lost the connection to the camera. But to answer your question, Queen, what made me want to join the Nation of Islam is seeing the militancy and the discipline from the men. There was actually a video that I came across on YouTube during the pandemic from Brother Leo Muhammad out in London in the UK, and it was a viral video, and I just related to it. The brother's stance and the way the posture was with the brothers, and seeing how they spoke, man, and how they handled the crowd, and that really is what allowed me to say, hey, man, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about the teachings, and I had already had a familiarity with the teachings from the 5 percenters, from getting the teachings from them first, but the structure was different, right? The 5 percenters don't have that militancy about them, and that discipline. So that's what really just led me towards the nation more and more, and then learning about how to eat to live and message to the black man during the pandemic when we had the time to sit down and everybody was at home. A lot of this stuff was just, within my environment in my area. So that's honestly what led me to it organically, and then one thing led to another.
Praise be to Allah. And my next question is for you both. What is the biggest misconception do you think the world have about black men in general? Because as we know, the black men is so the way they put or talk about the black man in the media, they downplay the black man and make it seem like they're so dangerous. So what is one of the misconceptions that you believe the world has about the black man, and how can Islam help in that arena? And we can start with Brother Zaire first this time, and then we'll go to Brother Vernon.
Well, one way we can help is be able to relate to the youth. A lot of times the youth, they see us. Well, I would say us in a general space, as far as from a conscious movement or from a religious perspective, as someone who may be too cleaned up. We may not be approachable. So you make yourself approachable to the people, man. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said his best followers out there in the streets. And for me, with the business that I do, I'm out in the streets, pretty much 7 days a week, distributing the fruit to the people, and I'm relatable. They're able to get a sense of my body language, my energy. That they could tell that I'm different, how I speak to them, how I handle them, and that's a very, very, very big thing that allows them to be able to, be attractive towards me in a way of like, okay, we want to learn a little bit more about you, not just from you selling your product, but also what is it that you do as far as culture wise in your lifestyle.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah, Brother Vernon.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you. I heard a joke before. I'm not going to repeat it because when I heard it, I was thoroughly offended being a black man. But the joke was intended to perpetuate the myth that the black man was lazy. I think that's and what I got from that, this was years ago, that we were lazy and that we were not industrious. And I think, among other things, of course, not limited to, but I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to black men, right? And we know factually that that's not true, and that's something that has been perpetuated by people that has not necessarily been friendly to us since we've been here in this country, since our experience in America. We know through the teachings, of course, that the black man is industrious. He is a hard worker, and not only that he's established civilizations, and he's one of the biggest contributors to history when it comes to inventions and things that have propelled civilization forward. But I'm stuck there, sister, because I look at not just those of us that existed, in the past, but if I look at in the present tense, you have black men that are still building right now. You have black billionaires, black millionaires. Of course, you have the FOI, which is the biggest, in my opinion, of course, the biggest indicator that black men are not only lazy, but they're some of the hardest working men that you'll find on the planet. Whereas they're tasked with being productive and going out into the community, um, and giving their all to reach their people, going door to door, going up and down the highways and the byways, the blocks, as our captain says, block by block. And when you look at that work, and then you look at the other work that the black man has to be consistent, persistent with maintaining his family, his employment, his career, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to highlight that because the joke that I was referring to, I will say it, it was something along the lines of, how do you starve a black man? You hide his EBT card in his work boot, in his work boots. And I was thoroughly offended by that, but I understood that it was set out of ignorance, and it was one of the perspectives that was being perpetuated by, like I said, those that haven't been friendly and kind to us since our experience in this country.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And my next question is for you, Brother Vernon. So in your bio, you say you help men and boys by helping them find their why. And a lot of times in the Black community, in the poor community in general, we suffer from lack of opportunity that, if you have access to resources, you may not suffer. So once they know their why, how do you help Black men and boys push towards their why and show them that they can create opportunities for themselves?
Man, that's a beautiful question. So you're right on my street, sister. So it's something that I love to do. My work, I work with the city. My title is Manager of Youth Support Services. And as explained, it's a beautiful question. I am tasked with meeting our young men where they are. Right. So when I go to them, or when they come to me, when they're introduced to me, or when I'm introduced to them, I have to ascertain basically where are you right now in your life. Of course, we know our young men they have some issues. A lot of our young men are what we call disconnected from the needed resources that they need to be productive, to be constructive, to be on a particular pathway to move and to be successful or forward progress. What I do is we sit down and we go through things that they love to do, things that they enjoy to do, and I try to help them identify what their talents are. I mean, it's a series of things. It's a whole process that we go through, and in identifying their talents and the things that they are inclined toward, doing those positive things, I kind of help show them that laying dormant in your talents and in your gifts is your purpose. Hence, that's the reason why you have those specific talents and gifts. And of course, I got that from our beautiful teachers and from our beautiful minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So once I help them to identify what their purpose is, what is it that you want to do with your life? What is it that you're good at? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that that's what you're most good at, what you do so easily well. That's most likely what you're meant to do in life. And so once we identify those things, then of course we start with short and long-term goals. The goals, they're not only targets for them to help them go from space to space, to being more and more successful, but it also helps them to build momentum. So if I accomplish a small goal, and then if I accomplish another one, and then another one, it builds the confidence and self-esteem in their minds and in their hearts that I can do this. I paint the bigger picture, but in the meanwhile, we focus on those small goals and those small steps that help them get closer toward the bigger picture. So we basically lay out a personalized plan for each young man. We work with them. We help to develop soft skills, hard skills through work. We get them employed, and we just walk with them step by step toward that process and them growing into whatever it is that they want to be. We get them on that pathway. And I prayerfully I answered your question thoroughly, sister.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Brother Zaire, my next question before I go to the West. When it comes to navigate the GMO is so readily available. So how do you navigate trying to avoid that and give people fresh fruits without the enemy intervening? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, yeah. So one way of navigating through that, avoiding the GMOs and avoiding what the enemy provides us, is doing my research. Right, going and contacting farmers. A lot I've done is through Google search, reaching out to farmers, white farmers, right? Some Caucasian farmers who are into growing their foods the right way, the organic, non-GMO way, and going from there. So reaching out to them, networking them, asking them, how do you grow your food? If you do use pesticides, are you growing your food organically? Are these pesticides something that we can wipe off? Are you growing your foods the synthetic way, or are you growing them the organic way, but you're still using, organic pesticide that can easily be wiped off, and I can still provide it to the people in its natural state, right? So just getting educated on that as I build with a lot of different farmers here in Texas, Michigan, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia. I ask those different questions so that way I know exactly what I'm getting, what I'm providing to the people. Because as when you go to the grocery market, you'll see food that has barcodes on it. The foods that start with a barcode that begins with the number 3 or 4, those are synthetically processed and grown and developed foods that you do not want, right? Because the seed has been tampered with, the seed may be patented, so you're having a lot of different issues with that fruit compared to a fruit that begins with the number 9, which is grown organically. It is grown the organic way, but a lot of times they spray, organic pesticides on it to preserve the food longer, right? And especially depending on the logistics of it, depending on where that fruit is going to, based on region. So those are a lot of the different things that I look for when I'm asking farmers different questions and when I'm networking with them, so that way I could get down to the root of what exactly I'm getting and what I'm providing to the people, so that way I make sure that they're getting the best foods from a nutrient standpoint.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that, sir. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Brother West, who has some questions for you both. Brother West.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Wa alaikum salam,
Alaikum
sir.
salam, sir.
How are you, brother?
Yes, sir. So I first wanted to start off by asking you both how you were introduced to the Nation of Islam and what ultimately made you decide to join. And we can start with you, Brother Zaire.
Yes, sir. So as I was explaining to the sister, what made me join, man, like I said, is coming across that video from Brother Leo Muhammad on YouTube, man, a viral video that he had when he was out there in the park with the fruit, and he was building on the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, man. But seeing that militancy and that discipline is what really, really gravitated me towards the nation. And like I said, a part of it too is being from Brooklyn, New York, originally, seeing the Nation of Islam, but never really learning about it because my parents were Christian, and my mom was kind of like a little bit more free will thinker. So I never did get into the Nation of Islam growing up. But 2020, when the pandemic hit, we was all able to sit down and, stay at home a lot more, right? And really focus on ourselves, internally. So coming across that video from Brother Leo Muhammad, man, it's like he just touched me. I feel like he was talking to me directly in that video, and I wanted to learn more. So I went from that to picking up the message to the black man, to studying how to eat to live, and ultimately about a year and a half later, between making that decision of whether I want to stay 5% and be amongst the gods in the earth or join the Nation of Islam, I ended up making that decision November 2021.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. And next, Brother Vernon, I wanted to ask you the same question. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. So link him again, Brother West. Wa
alaikum salam, sir. It's great having you on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Man, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. It was a very beautiful experience for myself. Just knowing where Allah brought me from. and it was right in the nick of time because I was in quicksand. So ideally, my father had been in the nation for quite some time. I remember being 11 and 12 and 13, and whenever he was incarcerated, because father was kind of in and out of the prison system. Whenever he was incarcerated, I would go through his things in his room whenever I was at his house with his girlfriend and my other siblings. And the one thing that I always remember seeing, I always saw this brown skinned attractive man with this funny looking head on his head on a book that said How to Eat to Live, and I didn't know what I was looking at back then, but that image had been burned in my mind. I just remember as a 12 and a 13-year-old being attracted to that image. Of course, I ended up finding out years in the future that was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I'd always saw, going through my father's belongings, I would always see books with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's picture on them. And whenever my father was incarcerated, his siblings would take me to go and visit him. Man, and when I would go in the visiting room and sit in that visiting room, those were some of the best mosque meetings, teaching sessions I'd ever been in. He would come out, and our entire visit, my father would teach me from the time that I can remember, maybe 10 up until 16, 17, 18. I would always get taught in the visiting room by my father when I went to visit him. And it just so happens that Sister Janine's on the phone. And the reason why I say this is because while I was still out in the streets, involved in whatever I was involved in, I don't know if you all are familiar with what a hack is, or, when you put your finger out trying to get a ride from one location to another. Me and my cousin, who I used to be with every day, and, we were getting in trouble, and we were doing all kinds of stuff. We went up on Poplar Grove and Mosier Street to catch a hack. And his brother pulled up in a green, I believe it was a Ford. I forget, but a brother pulled up in a green Ford, and me and my cousin, we got in the car. We were going from Poplar Grove and Mosier Street. I think we were going to East Baltimore. And while I was in that car, this brother that I had never met before had started teaching me, and it sounded very similar, if not identical, to what my father used to teach me when I would go and visit him. It was Brother Delroy Muhammad. And I mean, the entire ride, from the time I got into the car to the time we got to our destination, he was teaching. He was asking questions. I was locked in because I had a foundation for the teachings at that time. And my cousin, the brother that I was with, he had no interest in it. He was off doing what he was doing. But when the Brother Delroy, when we got to the destination, I said, "Brother, where's the temple at? Where's the mosque at?" He said, "Brother, we're right up on Garrison of Liberty. Just come on up there." And I think the next 2 days, I come up there, and what really pushed me to come up there was I had gotten into some trouble in my neighborhood, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And I just knew that I had to make a change, because if I hadn't, I don't think that I would have been around to be talking to you all now. So I came up to I caught the 15 up there. I caught the 15 to, I think, the 91. I got off. I went in by myself, and the rest is history. From that point forward, I think when I went in, Brother Law was speaking, I was blown away, and I just kept coming back on my own. And next thing you know, a good Brother Chuck, he pushed the envelope, and he pushed me, and he said, "Brother, you got to get your acts. You got to get registered." I came up there in 98. I think I got registered in the beginning of 99. And the rest is history, a beautiful history.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. That sounds beautiful indeed.
Yes, sir.
And my next question for you all, I wanted to ask, how did it feel to soldier in the same city where you grew up? And if not that same city, that similar environment to where you once found yourself? And we can start with you, Brother Vernon.
It's been very emotional, brother. When I reflect on that, it's funny that you ask, because these are things that we think about on a regular basis. And the reason why I say this is because I remember hearing that, Islam, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they give us wings, right? Not literally, but symbolically, they give us wings. And when I first heard that, of course, I didn't understand in its entirety what that meant. However, as I started to mature, I understood due to the same comment that you just made, Brother West. When our student captain, Brother Andrew Muhammad, would take us out into the streets, I would always run into somebody that I saw. I would always run into somebody that I used to hang on the corner with, the guys that I used to be involved in, the things that I used to be involved with, which were, serious stuff. And they were still there. They were still doing the same thing. They were still involved in the same activity, and they hadn't made any progress. Still on the same corners. 10, 15, 20, 25, 25 years later. And you develop a heart and you develop true love and compassion for your people. The longer you are in Islam, the longer you experience and live on this side of life, you truly do care. So when I would see these brothers that I used to hang out with, and they were doing the same thing, they were stuck. And I said, oh, this is what it means Islam gives you wings. Because once we come into the nation, we submit to the teachings. As we strive to submit to the teachings, and we begin to live our lives, God and our activity and all of those different things that we become involved in, it raises us above those conditions, those suffering conditions that our people are still submerged in. So we're flying high somewhat, so to speak. We're flying above the condition of our people. We aren't suffering like we were before we became registered members and before we were introduced to the teachings. However, it's emotional for me, Brother West, because I still have to go out and see. And I've had plenty of my friends that I invited to the mosque. I've tried to, to offer them, and I would tell them, like, bro, look at me. Like, bro, Vernon, you look good, man. I remember you used to do. And he was like, look at you, look good. I said, bro, it's the nation, it's the teachings, it's this life I'm living now, man. Come on, man. I'll come pick you up. Some came, some kept their word. Some I went to go and pick up, and they didn't answer the door. Whatever the case may be. But that's my response, Brother West. It's very emotional. I love the fact that Allah saved me. He chose me. He picked me from out of that fire, and He allowed me to live the life that I'm living right now. But it's emotional when you think about it, because a lot of brothers, man, that I had tight, very close relationships with, that are still out there. Some got life in prison, and some lost their lives because they continued to do. A good friend of mine lost his life over East Baltimore, and he and I were really tight. He was still doing what we were doing back when I was with, as a 40-year-old, 45-year-old. He's still doing what we were doing, and he eventually lost his life. So it's emotional, but praise be to Allah for the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because I am thankful and I am grateful that Allah chose and saved me, and He allowed me to get out of that fire. So I apologize for the long answer.
No, sir. No apology necessary. But yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah, indeed.
Yes,
Next,
sir.
we can go to you, Brother Zaire.
Yes, sir. For myself, brother, it's very, very reflective. For myself, being in the streets prior to joining the Nation of Islam, hustling, selling drugs, and having a transformation, right? The transformation, the renewing of your mind, and taking yourself away from the world. You're able to reflect and see your people in a different light, compared to being a part of the problem. You're now the solution, and you have the solution, but not in an arrogant way. But when you're out soldiering with the people, it's a lot of different thoughts that go through my mind. Some people talk to me crazy. They talk to you. They talk to us crazy. The FOY. They say, oh, get that out of my face, or get that crap, or you need get that crap out of my face, or you guys need Jesus, or you guys with the real Jesus, Muhammad's not God, all type of different stuff, man. And part of it, a lot of times I'm out there having fun, I'm laughing. It's always another brother out there with me. So it is for me, it's a fun experience, but it's also a learning experience. I'm able to see things externally and internally. Part of it is like how I used to be, how I used to conduct myself in an ignorant manner, and cleaned up by the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad with the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You're able to see yourself in a different light, and you're also able to appreciate your people, because the people, they really do need us, as you're able to see them, throughout the course of the day as you're soldiering, whether they drinking, whether they got marijuana on them, whether it's brothers with guns in their laps, when you walk up to their car doors and hey, final call, brother, and they got the gun in their lap, and you could tell that they on edge, right? Our people are on edge right now, man, especially in today's time, man. Things are more crazier than ever. I remember when my grandmother, she used to tell my mom, she said, you raising your children in a very, very crazy time. It's not like what it used to be. When I was raising you guys in the 60s and 70s, early 80s, it's a different time that you're going to be raising your children in. So be protective of them. And my mom used to tell me that when I was like 12, 13, 14, I was like, whatever, but now I'm able to see that as I grow into being a man and I'm more mature. So that's it's two sides, for me, King, being able to have fun with it, because life is short, man. It says life is like a vapor. You hit 1 minute, you're going the next. So I have fun while I'm out there, but at the same time, I know it's a very, very serious task that we have as FOY and even MGT, when we out there amongst the people, and we're trying to save them.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah, and we thank you for your contribution as well. We have a lot of, I would say, appreciation in the chat from our listeners, so it's wonderful hearing those testimonies always. And next, I know, Brother Zaire, you just spoke on some, I won't say not the rougher parts of going out in the streets, but some of those more real experiences. But next, I wanted to know if you can share the level of brotherhood amongst the FOI and any favorite memories you've had while soldiering or at the mosque. And we can start with you, Brother Zaire.
Man, no doubt. So brother Harold, man, shout out to brother Harold Muhammad out in Greensboro, Muhammad Mosque number 92, where I joined on with the Nation of Islam, man. Shout out to the beautiful brother. All the brothers there at Muhammad Mosque number 92, but that brother in particular, man, he took me underneath his wing. Us both being from the tri-state area, me being from New York and him being from New Jersey, he took a strong liking to me, and he was hard on me, man. Brother Harold, he reminded me of my uncles from Brooklyn, very hard, very stern. They come from that old cloth, right? So they not playing no games. They're straightforward, very blunt, but they love you though, but that's how the older generation was, they're not as sensitive as our generation. Underneath his wing, he taught me how to soldier, man. He taught me how to handle the people, how to communicate with them, different terms, the different slick what ways how he would come back as far as with rebuttals. When they would say something kind of sideways to him, he would say something else. He like, the people would pull up, hey man, I don't have no money on me, and just the different rebuttals that Brother Harold would have, man. He has so many, but very, very, very beautiful brother, man. He was a big influence on me when I first joined into the nation, on pushing the final call, and having that confidence when I went out there with the final call. So those are some of the finest memories I have. Him pulling up on me, seeing me out there going hard with the bean pies in the final call, and he would come drop $5 on me. He's like, brother, you keep it up, remaining consistent is what's gonna have a lot of people, gravitating to you. You got to be consistent. You don't come out here, just once a week. Come out here every single time Allah gives you breath and you have that time on you when you're not working or whatever. Come out here with the final call, man. And that's what I would do. I would normally go hit the streets probably every Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday. But as I built up that consistency, people start getting familiar with my face. They're like, oh, yo, that's Brother Zaire. Or, hey, man, we know you got bean pies on you. Let me get 3 bean pies. Let me get 4 bean pies on you. So building up that consistency, man, but having that brotherhood with Brother Harold in particular, man, out there in Greensboro, Muhammad Mosque number 92, is what helped me a lot with my confidence with building the final call. And now being out here in Houston, I don't have no fear as far as with pushing the final call. At first I was kind of a little bit suspect, because being out there in Greensboro is different from back home in New York or here in Houston where it's a larger population. So you're like, man, I don't know. You know, the time that we're living in, people don't want to read as much. Everyone's in the iPads and cell phones and stuff. And now you got AI and virtual technology. So it's like, you know, people, they literally just drive right by you, man. You can have a big, beautiful smile, dressed sharp as a tack, and they still drive right by you, man. Some people, they just look at me, you know, I'll speak to them, they look at you crazy. So sometimes that can kill your confidence, man. If you're not thick skin, if you don't have thick skin, that can kill your confidence. And you out there, it's hot, man. You know, FOI, we go out there whether it's hot or cold, 30 degrees or 92 degrees, you know, we out there. So you have to have thick skin, but most importantly, you have to really, really believe in these teachings on what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad built for us, and know that it's fact, know that it's truth. You know, it's the undoctrinated truth, and there's nothing that can debunk it. So with that brotherhood that I built with the brothers out there in Greensboro, man, them pulling up on me, showing me love, giving me donations every now and then, or even coming out there and soldiering with me, that built up my confidence, man, to go out there with that final call consistently. So big shout out to my brother Harold, man, out there in Greensboro.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah for the FOI. And then we'll go to you, Brother Vernon.
Yes, sir. Hey, brother Zaire, I bear witness that that's a beautiful brother Harold, man. I know exactly what you're talking about. Beautiful brother, yes, sir. Brotherhood, man, I can't. When you try to compare the FOI and the brotherhood to any other body, man, it's brother. So I'll start with this. I'll say this. First, I got to speak about our leadership, man, brother. Our beautiful student captain, Brother Andrew Muhammad, and our beautiful imam. Man, those men, if you could look up the phrase, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we are to work cheerful and fear not. Man, brother, that brother's face should be right next to that quotation. Work cheerful and fear not. The work that I seen this brother put in, and not just in the streets to helping to save our people, although he's characterized by that work. I mean, that's just what he does, right? But the internal work, a very difficult work, a very strategic work, a very meticulous work of ensuring that the FOI are like this, of ensuring that the body of men that belong to Muhammad in Baltimore, Mosque number 6, are like this, a true and a real brotherhood, that work, that help one another, that have true and real and compassionate cohesion, that can rely on one another, a true brotherhood. So when I look at that, brother, when I look at that work, because there is no mystery, God. I mean, all of the things that are produced, all of the things that we see out in the in society and in the world, you know, a man brought them about. A man produced those things. A man, you know, the originator, he produced the sun, the moon, the stars. We can look at those things, those tangible things, and we know that they were produced. So I could speak about the beauty of the brotherhood, but I have to acknowledge the men that play a part in making sure that those things are a reality, that we can experience, that we can reach out and touch. So I gotta, man, point to our brother Captain. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he quoted, he said that we suffer from the burden of fear, and we are then restricted by that burden. That brother isn't restricted by that burden. That brother has no fear. That brother is out in the street. He leads the body of men out in the street, and I believe that work is what helps build the cohesion of our brotherhood here in Baltimore. So in order for me to recognize the beauty of the brotherhood, I have to recognize the men that play a part in producing that. Our beautiful brother Imam Abdul Salam, he does great work in the city of Baltimore, helping the believers, making sure that we're elevating in our understanding and our expression of Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, Brother West, that is what I'll offer. But I just wanted to share those words about our leaders here in the city in regards to brotherhood. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah, and thank you for your response as well.
Hey,
oh yes, sir,
brother. Brother West, yeah, excuse me. If I could add one more thing to add value to what the brother was saying with the brotherhood, man, and to answer your
Yes, sir.
question, having the numbers too, man. Me being a young fruit and going out there and being, soldiering with the brothers for the first time, and when we come out there in numbers, man, I notice how the people how they gravitate to us even more. So that thing about unity, as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad builds on unity, and honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan builds on unity. We don't need a whole lot of us, just the brothers that's committed. And when you out there as a unit, man, it looks so beautiful, and the people gravitate to you a lot more. So I recognize that when I would be out there soldiering with Brother Harold, or other brothers would come pull up on a student cap, some of the lieutenants, and we out there soldiering together, we would have a marvelous time, man. So I'm smiling because I think about all the memories I had with those brothers, specifically at Muhammad Mosque number 92, man. Just beautiful time, beautiful memories, especially as Brother knows, dealing with Brother Harold, man. He'll have you laughing out there. So yeah, that unity though is very, very, very powerful, man, and it attracts the people even more when we out there as a unit.
Praise be to Allah. That sounds like some great experiences you've had while on the street, and that's wonderful. And next, I wanted to ask you both about your first time reading a piece of our teaching. So basically, when you first read Message to the Black Man, or your first final call, how was that? And we can start with you, Brother Vernon. Yes, sir. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
My apologies, brother. So I recall I shared earlier that I come in contact with my father's, books and so on. I would see a picture of the messenger on the books, but I'd never read them back in those days. It was just the visuals. My first book that I was inspired to purchase was Message to the Black Man. I think that was everybody's first book for the most part that they experienced from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And at the age, I believe I was either 18 or 19, 45 now. I went and bought that particular book from a bookstore called Everyone's Place on North Avenue. As a matter of fact, I think majority of my books come from there. And I remember cracking that book open. And the book is so attractive. The words are so beautiful that once you open that book, man, you're locked in until you finished. So I remember and I recall purchasing the book. I caught the subway I bought the book from Everyone's Place. I caught the subway from North Avenue and Penn Station up to Mondawmin Mall. And I literally sat in Mondawmin Mall. And I maybe read half of the book. And I did this maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, at the age of 19. But I was locked in. The things that stood out to me the most was what the messenger taught about Black women. Of course, their value, their importance, and how he spoke about how the woman was the field that the men, used to produce. And he gave the comparisons of how, if there's bugs or rodents or what have you destroying your crops, we will run out and we will protect our crops, because that is what the earth has produced for us. And he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing, why wouldn't we do the same for our women? Why wouldn't we protect our women? And I know that information and that inspiration had much to do with me producing my book, The Majesty of the Woman. That had a lot to do with it. So it was Message for the Black Man for me. The teachings of, when you first opened the book, when he taught about the mystery God. This is all knowledge that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is reconnecting us with. It's embedded in our genetics. It's embedded in our DNA. So being reintroduced to something that you've been denied access to for so long, and now you finally have it in the grasp of your hands. It was something that you just imagine being thirsty and dehydrated, and you hadn't had anything to drink for 3 or 4 days, and you come across a well, fresh water. You want to drink it in. You want to fully hydrate yourself. I mean, the taste of that water when you've been denied for so long is just like, man, it's quenching down to your soul. So the message to the black man for me, and I believe after that, my second book, Brother West, was Our Savior Has Arrived, which is another beautiful book. So that was my experience in the first material reading reading that I had of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when I first came into the Nation of Islam, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Praise
sir.
be to Allah. And next we'll go to you, Brother Zaire. You can tell us about your first experience with a material from our teachings, or also the first time you heard a lecture. I meant to mention that as well. And you're on mute, by the way.
My first book experience would be Message to the Black Man, at the same time How to Eat to Live. First lecture, I can't remember exactly the first lecture that I heard from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but I could definitely go back to the book Message to the Black Man and How to Eat to Live. During that time, like I said, I was coming out of the streets in that pandemic time. I gave my brother my drugs. I gave him my gun scale. I said, "Look, I'm done, man." And he thought I was playing. But I said, "Look, I'm done. I'm gonna take this last trip to California with you. Then after that, I'm done. You know, I don't want no parts to do with this. I've heard something that I feel like can change my life for the better. And if I really apply myself, I believe in myself enough to where I can have a different lifestyle." So during that time, I had acquired Message to the Black Man. I'm reading that, and also How to Eat to Live. So I stopped eating chicken. I stopped eating beef. Stopped eating on seafood, and I went on a 3-day fast. This is right during the time of the Criterion, matter of fact, too, when Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan delivered that on July 4th. So during that weekend, I'm fasting. And prior to that weekend, we had just went out to Los Angeles. I did my last dealings with what I was doing with my bro. And you know what I'm saying? I said, yo, I'm going a different direction. I want to take my life in a different area. So that's what I remember vividly, is picking up that book, eliminating some of the bad things that was negative in my life and also negative to our people, to our community as a whole. And reading and feeding on that book, man, eating one time a day. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying, getting rid of all the medicine in the cabinet. You know, if you eat one time a day, you won't need certain things. You won't have to depend on certain medications. Getting rid of cheese, getting rid of chicken, pork, beef. Some of the things were blowing my mind. You know, you're only supposed to eat fish that's under 50 pounds, you know, no catfish, stuff like no tilapia. So I'm like, man, wow. It just blew my mind. You know, we're not supposed to eat corn. A lot of these things that were normal in the Black community that we're so used to eating on, you know, he's saying that's the opposite of it. That's the opposite. So it really was just pulling me in. I'm like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, dang, like, is he serious? But as I kept on reading, and as that summer went on, and I felt a lot more better in my energy, in my spirit changing, man, and my skin clearing up on my face, I said, nah, this is the truth. This is the truth right here. I'm like, your brother said he got this from Master Father Muhammad, God in person. Yeah, he wasn't lying, you know. So I seen that in myself internally, especially from How to Eat to Live, man. So that's another thing I said that really, really pulled me towards joining the nation, was that book in particular, book 1 and book 2, because of the truth in it.
Yes, sir. And next we'll go to you, Brother Vernon.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, brother. I believe. Can you repeat the question, Brother West? My apologies.
Yes, sir. Or did I ask that question?
I think
my apologies. I had already. Yes, sir. You already answered the question. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, that does remind me that we do have a question for you, Brother Vernon, in the chat, and it's from our brother Adil Nasor, and he wants to ask, Brother Vernon, how is it, soldiering under the leadership of the nation's second national Imam, Abdul Salam Muhammad? Oh,
wow. Very good question. Thank you, Brother Nasor. Assalamu alaikum, sir, if you can hear me. Man, Sister Terry put the majesty of the woman. Brother, I would say it's been one. So when you look at the quality of leadership, and I spoke about that earlier, I talked about our leadership, our beautiful brother captain, as well as our imam. I think that we could all bear witness to the profound wisdom and the insight that our Imam has when it comes to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Islam. And for me, soldiering under that brother, being under that brother and watching him grow, watching him evolve from the time when I came into mosque in 98. I experienced him at 98, and I believe I was 18 or 19 at the time. And fast forward to where I am right now, I've seen that brother grow tremendously, and I've watched his fundamental understanding of Islam grow to the point where he's brought us up with him, those of us that are willing to submit to the learning and to hearing his lectures and to listening to him and just being inspired and motivated to read and to parse, as he would tell us, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells us to do it as well, to parse the teachings, parse the words that are contained in the teachings and the writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to increase and expand our understanding of what it is that we're reading, so that we don't have just a surface knowledge. The Honorable, our dear brother Imam Abdul Salam, he teaches us to understand the tenets of Islam, the pillars, the hadiths and so forth. I mean, like, this brother has a rich understanding of what Islam is, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad. He's very versed and he can teach. I remember going up to Juma on Friday one time. He was teaching. He was giving the I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, brother.
Is that the cookbah?
Yes. Apologies. He was giving the cookbah. We were at the location up by Walbrook Junction, and for so long, I had experienced and I had seen firsthand the prejudice that the Orthodox, or rather Sunni Islam had for the Nation of Islam. Right? You see that. I mean, some are vocal and some aren't, but I've seen it. I've experienced it. Our dear brother was giving the khutbah, and I was maybe 1 or 2 people away from a Sunni Muslim, an Orthodox Muslim, my brother, and he bore witness to everything that our beautiful Imam had to say. And I said, wow, to me that was big, because if our brother can teach, which he can, we all bear witness to that, and if he can affect and inspire and motivate those of so-called different persuasion, even though we know that it really isn't, and inspire them from where they stand in their understanding of Islam, I knew that brother was well-grounded, and he was a true Muslim that embodied everything that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told and gave us. So, Brother Nasor, that is how I would answer your question. But I can tell you, brother, it's been a beautiful experience being under our Imam, being able to partake and listen to his lectures and his words, private conversation, private guidance from him. He's helped me and my family. I mean, brother, I could talk and speak all night in regards to how I've benefited from being under that brother's leadership. Thank you, Brother West.
Oh, yes, sir. And Brother Adil Nasor gave the greetings as well.
Yes, sir.
And next, before I turn it back over to Sister Janine, I'll go ahead with our station ID. Family, you are listening to WHID-FM. What has Islam done for me? We thank you for tuning in and spending your valuable time, because without you, there is no WHID-FM. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to email us at WHID1919@gmail.com. And also, please subscribe to WHID-FM on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. And family, WHID-FM will not air next Sunday out of respect for the Holy Day of Atonement, and we'll give more details about this wonderful event during announcements just in a little while. Also, we will air the Sunday after next, which will be on October 20th. So be sure to tune in for that wonderful, wonderful episode. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Sister Janine.
Thank you, Brother West. Before I go to my next question, we actually do have a question in the chat that was asked to you both. It says, how did your family, including your father, respond to you joining the Nation of Islam? And this question is for you both. So I'll start with Brother Zaire first, and then we'll go to Brother Vernon.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, family. How did my dad respond to me joining the Nation of Islam? Man, you talk about fireworks. So Pops was definitely not on board with it. For him, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had Malcolm X killed. The Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan is a crook. A lot of slander is what I was getting. And, for me, coming from Brooklyn, I'm taught we don't tolerate that. And my dad, he knows that. So me and my dad have had a very rocky relationship since I've been probably about 17 years old. And when I joined the Nation at the age of 29, he definitely wasn't in agreement with it. But I was able to bring him up to the mosque. Once I was able to calm my emotions, as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, rise above emotion into the thinking of God. Once I was able to do that, I invited my pops out, had him come to the mosque, the brothers there and the sisters, FOIMGT, greeted him with a heart of gold. And he took a strong liking to it. He seen the respect that we have for him, but also most importantly for our people. And over time, he started complimenting the nation. He's like, I love what you guys are doing, for the community. He started to gain a lot more understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of exactly what the Nation of Islam is about and what our goal is and what our agenda is out here for the people. So that's where we went from the beginning to the end. But at first, yeah, it was rough, man. Like I said, it was fireworks. Me and Pops was going back and forth. He's a devoted Christian. So we had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of disagreements at first. And, for me being, like I said, a young fruit and a baby at wisdom and still being a little bit ignorant, I would go back and forth with him instead of just saying, hold on, man, let me just, I'm not going to entertain that conversation. Let me just bring you to the mosque. And, after that, then we could conversate, or we could conversate with the FOI, and that way you could get more transparency on what it is that you may be confused about compared to me trying to answer stuff in an emotional state, right? So that was a good learning lesson from me, that Allah gave me, through my pops, through my dad, being able to control my emotions, because my pop, him being able to test me, prepared me for being able to go out here into the streets and dealing with the people a certain type of way and handling them a certain type of way. So when they say something out of pocket or mad crazy, I don't take it in an emotional type of way. The minister doesn't want us to do that. He wants us to be like gods, right? So you need to handle the people in that type of manner, in that type of fashion. So my pops was a very, very good tester for me, especially that first year, 2022, being in the Nation of Islam. Yeah, he tested my patience, man. But staying in the classroom as we taught, I was able to, harness my emotions and staying around those good brothers like Brother Harold and Brother Captain out there, Brother Captain George and Brother Troy out there, Muhammad Mas number 92 and Brother John, one of the lieutenants, them taking me underneath their wings, man, and really giving me that brotherhood and that love and showing me how to conduct myself amongst the people and how to properly handle the people as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us, allowed me to deal with my dad, but also most importantly taught me how to better deal with the people and handle them when I go out here soldiering this final call, or whenever I'm out with the people, right? Like I said, I'm out with the people 7 days a week selling them fruit, so I get people that come at me in different ways. Hey, that watermelon wasn't good, or that last batch wasn't this or that. So I'm having to always watch how I handle the people. So that experience that I had with my dad, man, that first year helped prepare me for all of what I'm doing now. So I appreciate my pops for that.
Praise be to Allah. Full circle moment. Good to hear. Good to hear. And Brother Vernon, what about yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Hey, that was beautiful, brother. I gotta tell you. That was beautiful. Man, so it was for me, Sister Janine, to the sister that asked the question, it was like a roller coaster. So as far as my father was in the nation, my father was in prison. And I would assume that for him seeing me taking a liking to and developing an attachment with something that I'm sure it helped save him. I'm sure he was ecstatic. I never really got that experience of seeing how he felt about it. I lost my father in 2000. Uh, my mother, she whatever could tame me, she was okay with it. She didn't care what it was. So when she saw that there was something that was introduced to me and it was taming me, it was keeping me from coming out and doing what I was doing and going somewhere that was productive. And she saw me in a suit. I remember for the first time, if I can recall correctly, she broke down and started crying because nothing that she had ever done to try to help me to get me to change, change was ever effective. My biggest opposition came from my grandparents. I had some diehard Christian family. My grandmother, my great grandmother, my great uncle, and for the life of me, I just didn't understand the level of opposition that I was receiving from them. I understood that there was some differences, and she's a Christian, I'm a Muslim, but at my young age, I just didn't understand why the opposition was so extreme and so severe. But I will tell you, I got some of my best preparatory work when it came to debating and being able to defend the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because I had to know my stuff, and I would be purposeful in studying to develop the knowledge and to develop the foundation to be able to respond to the attacks that I was getting. I would go in a house, man, and sometimes it was the entire house it was just me against the entire house. My grandmother, my aunts, uh, and of course, their voice would drown out mine. But I had to learn patience. I had to learn how to dialogue without becoming upset and being disrespectful. It was a training ground. But more importantly, it also just showed me the majesty in our teachings. It really can't be defeated if we avail ourselves of the time it takes to study, delve into our teachings, dig into them, make sure that we are praying and building that connection and that relationship with the Lord of the worlds. Man, He'll make us an unstoppable force as long as we're attached to Him. We'll be successful. But I just got some of my biggest opposition from inside the house. When I left out the house and I went into the streets, the brothers that I used to hang with, that I used to sell drugs with, so on and so forth, they showed me love. They showed me love. When I went in the house, man, it was a rough ride, but it was just a roller coaster. So yes, man.
Praise be to Allah. And my next question that I have for you both: what is your biggest, outside of getting the knowledge of self, which is given? What has been your biggest success story that you would say, without Islam, I wouldn't have been able to achieve this? And we can start with Brother Zaire and then Brother Vernon.
Yes, ma'am. My biggest achievement, man, as of right now, being in the present, man, modern day time. When I first joined the Nation of Islam, I was working on real estate, and I had a job as well, doing supervisor work for production department for a company that was working with medical products. But fast forward to now, like I said, that the first two books, picking up Message to the Black Man and How to Eat to Live, books 1 and books 2, and in particular, How to Eat to Live just grabbed my attention so strongly because of how I was eating, how I was conducting myself as far from a lifestyle standpoint, smoking, like I said, hustling, eating a lot of fast food, things of that nature, and the people around me doing the same thing, and reading How to Eat to Live, and also stumbling across brother Dr. Sabi with that, who used to be in the Nation as well too, which is how he learned a lot of the beauty that he picked up on with the science and knowledge of how to eat to live. Everything being rooted back to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, man. But that led me to the journey of wanting to sell fruit and also getting into the agriculture business from a distribution standpoint, but also touching the soil and being able to grow my own food as well too. So those are some of the things I'm working on right now behind the scenes with a couple of the FOI down here in Houston and other Black private farmers here in the Texas state. But that's what led me to what I'm doing now, man, and having the success and the freedom to be able to set up my own schedule, man. You know, I wake up, I pray, clean myself up, but I do it on my time. I'm not worried about going to go work for the Caucasian for them to feed me and provide for me. I got my little nephew over here right now. He's running back and forth doing orders for me. So as I'm on this video with the beautiful believers, I've directed my nephew. So he's 16 years old and he's able to look up to me and see me in that light, like, man, my uncle's working for himself and he's directed me with what he's doing. So typically he comes out and helps me every weekend or every other weekend, but it brings a lot of joy to me, man, you know. And I know I have that because of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and them, you know, explaining to us, find your passion, find out what your purpose is while you're here living. You know, don't just let things go by and go along with the go along. No, find out what it is exactly you're meant to do here. And the Nation of Islam has given that to me to where I'm able to have the happiness that I have now. Like I said, man, the freedom. Once I get off this call with the beautiful believers, I know I got to get back to working, shipping out some orders tomorrow for some people. I got about probably 400 pounds of Concord grapes that I'm looking at right now. I got my nephew bagging up some things. So it's just a beautiful experience, man, thinking about where I come from selling drugs, hustling, you know, working 9 to 5s, and my uncle's doing some of those same things. And now I'm looking at myself like, man, you know, I'm setting myself up to really be an entrepreneur based on the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and getting into agriculture and farming, you know, which is how we keep ourselves sufficient here. You gotta have farming and agriculture. You gotta have real estate. You know, those are the 3 biggest forms of business. If you don't have that, then we're not gonna be able to survive. And I'm just like, man, I'm getting into this. I didn't think of myself going to farms and driving, you know, hundreds of miles and thousands of miles to go pick up food and pick up watermelons and apples and all these things of that nature. I never could have seen myself like this 3 years ago. But because of reading those books and because of, honestly, the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with him keeping up the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and being a savior to me, it's allowed me to be able to be a small savior to others, man, and educate them on how they need to live. So that's what it's done for me, man. I'm grateful.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful, wonderful. Brother Vernon, what about yourself?
That's beautiful. Man, there's so many things, Sister Janine. Man, being alive, one. But I will say this: one of the things that I love doing, and I enjoy doing, I believe it's my purpose, is I shared earlier was working with the young men, you know, helping them to find their why, you know, walking with them through that process of getting them from one point to another. I can honestly tell you, I wouldn't have anything of value to give, to teach, or to say to those young men that would save their lives or add value to their lives if it were not for the teachings, if I had never come in contact with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or our beautiful leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. None of that. In fact, I would actually be on the opposite end, or teaching and professing the opposite of what I mean by that is this. I think about those dynamics, and I was reflecting on the question while brother was speaking, and I thought about it. I actually taught and promoted the exact opposite of life in the circles that I hung in, the people that I hung with, in my peer group. So I was, you know, of course, just like so many others of us, those that are lost, that are out there, we push and promote what's destructive, things that could get you killed, things that could cause you to lose your life, right? Those things. Now, for me as I reflected, I'm like, I'm on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. That is a dynamic, monumental, that's a magnificent transition. How do you go from one end to the next? What was the compelling force that was strong enough to get you, to get me, to get us from a grave dead-like experience, teaching grave dead-like teaching, to the opposite end? That's how big the teachings are. So I know factually, no college could have gotten me from where I was to where I am now, being able to give our young people hope and value, and and helping to get them from one point to the next. And then not only that, but motivating them to do those things in our absence, because we understand that most of our young people, when they're amongst themselves and when they're not with us, it's no telling what they're involved in. I have a system now with the work that I do where the young men check in with me virtually. We get on the virtual, so even if they're not at the center with me, if we're not together, we're on some kind of virtual connection like what we're experiencing right now. And the assignments and things where we occupy their time, that's all heavy to me. I'm actually stopping those young people from going down the path that I went down. That I thank Allah every day that He preserved me. He didn't allow me to suffer what would have been just if He had allowed me to suffer those things. I get to stop and get to help be a part of the process of keeping our young men from suffering those things.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful. Thank you both for those answers. And as we begin to wind down, we do have a couple of questions in the chat that I want to be able to ask. I'll go to Sister Denise's question first. So, Brother Zaire, she wanted to know, is there a website where she can view if someone wanted to order some of your products?
Yes, ma'am. So, walaikum salam. As of right now, I do not have a website, but I do have an Instagram page. So you can follow me on Instagram, or you can follow me on TikTok. I will also shoot the information in here. You can also contact me via email. Shoot me an email if you are out of state, and we'll work on the logistics with getting that fruit shipped to you as well too. And I keep a pretty constant updated menu as to what I have for the day and what I'll have for the week as far as the fruits are concerned.
Beautiful.
Praise be to Allah. And I'll go to the next question in the chat, and this has been addressed to you both. What has been the biggest trial / hardship in the nation, and how did you overcome it? And we can start with Brother Vernon first, and then Brother Zaire.
That's a very good question. Biggest house / hardship in the nation. Man. The camera didn't freeze, sister. I'm just reflecting. It didn't freeze. Man, okay, so I would say my biggest trial or hardship since I've been in the nation what was losing my my mom, right? I was losing my mother. That's a very good question, and it requires a lot, strength and to be able to answer some of these things, because of course we're still dealing with trauma and things of that nature that we're still working through those things. So when it was actually losing my father and my mother, well, I'll just say this: when I lost my father, I was in the beginning process of my experience with the Nation of Islam. So my foundation wasn't as strong as I would have liked it to be. And, eventually, it devastated me so much, that I fell out the nation. I lost my motivation. I lost my sense of purpose. And it was really wrapped up in, the relationship that I wanted to have with my father, the love that I had for my father, his absence in my life, and wanting to build. I wanted to replace that void, because it was a real void in my life. And then when he had passed, when I had lost him, I'd understood that it was permanent. I knew that there was nothing I could do about it. So all of the aspirations and the expectations that I had in building and missing and building a void that I had with that missed time from when I was younger, I had hopes of building that and in my adulthood. and I came to the realization that that wouldn't happen. So I lost motivation, and you know, I'd lost myself. I lost my sense of purpose and my sense of being in losing my father. It completely devastated me. Like I still reflect on it. I still, speak with people to this day in trying to get therapy. To work through that. It impacted me more than what I had known, more than what I knew. Um, it was rough. And of course, when I fell out, I went back to doing some of the things that I had been doing previously. Um, my mother, I lost my mother in 2018, and my mother, my experience with my father was a similar experience with my mother. My mother had been, substance abuse pretty much my entire life, so I watched her struggle with that. So I really didn't have the relationship with her that I wanted. So I had to go through that over, and that same feeling and those same traumas and pains. I had to experience it again, and I knew that I couldn't rebuild or get back because we all know that death is permanent. So I had to accept that, but it was very difficult. Uh, my foundation was much stronger than what it was when I lost my father. So Allah blessed me and He strengthened me so that I wouldn't, suffer some of the things that I suffered previously with my father, and I was able to maintain myself, stay grounded, keep afloat, and just keep the bigger picture in mind in terms of what it is that I want to do in the memory and making her proud and ensuring that I just continue to move forward. But those were my biggest trials in the nation, and I can't say it in past tense because I'm still dealing with it in real time. So, but thank you for the question. I appreciate it, sister.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. What about you, Brother Zaire?
So for me, the hardships, some of the biggest trials I've had a few. Some of them have been dealing with family, right? When I came into the nation at the time, I'm having they're going through the ups and downs with our mother, and a lot of the teachings that I was able to pour into my sisters, my three baby sisters, they took heed to it, but not as soon as I would have liked. But I understand that there's a timing for everybody, when they start to change spiritually and things start to change for them from a psychological standpoint. We all have to go through different experiences in life. And me and my sisters, we've spent time away from each other, being in different states and different regions, and we have different life experiences. Some of the things that I go through when I see things, or my outlook on things, may be different from my baby sisters, and I had to learn that. And that was a trial for me, my first year being in the nation, and even my second year, 2022 and 2023, dealing with that from the family side of it. And as of right now, honestly, one of the things, it's funny, the imam that we have out here in Houston, Muhammad Mas number 45, brother Ansari, shout out to the beautiful brother, the assistant minister at Muhammad Mas number 45. I had a transaction with him. He had came and picked up some fruit. He had a big order of fruit, and it was a very, very busy day for me. And I thought he had sped off without paying me. So I contacted him later. I'm like, yo, brother, I think you forgot to pay me. He's like, nah, brother, check your message. And he had Zelled it to me. He had Zelled the payment to me. He was like, brother, you need you a wife. And I started laughing because as much as it was funny, it was also very real. As I see myself going high and Allah's taking me to the next level and to the next level. And this summer has been a blessing for me, to where I haven't had to go back to work, and I figured out how I can make this self-sufficient year round. And getting into farming, I see the importance of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, when having a wife or having a husband, that being kind of like the second part of the work, right? So I see that for myself in the future. That's kind of like the hardship that I've been going through, even though I have my brother here, one of my brothers here that helps me out from time to time, and also my young nephew here with me as well too. Having that woman energy around you is just a bit different, and getting insight from them and having them help you with a lot of things when it comes to business, right? So I'm seeing the importance in that as well too. But I would probably say that's the hard shit I'm going through a little bit right now. But like the biggest trial is dealing with family, and also dealing with my brother from the streets. When I decided to give up drug dealing and hustling in the streets and going and turning my life over to Islam, my brother elevated to another level in the streets. He's still going back and forth to California, going to the Bay Area and going to LA, messing with the Asians. So the connect that he had at that time was real sweet, and it was very, very tempting for me to jump back into it at that time. And at that time, I wasn't in the nation, so I didn't join the nation until November 2021. So for the second half of 2020, my brother had really turned up. He went from getting, 5 and 10 pounds to getting 25 pounds of, weed in. And I'm looking like, ooh, it's tempting because, I've pulled myself away from that world completely, So I'm seeing the money that's pouring in for him. He started taking more trips, going out there to Vegas, going out there to Miami. And in this world that we live in, you 27, 28 years old, that's very, very tempting. So that was a very, very, very big challenge for me in 2021 too as well. Him asking me, you need any help? You need any help with anything? I said, nah, I'm good. And he ended up turning me on to one of the ladies who's a friend of our family out here in Houston, and she's an accountant and she works with different type of grants and loans. And at that time, when I decided to get out of the streets, I said I wanted to go legitimate. I got into real estate, and I got my business bank account together, my LLC, my EIN number, and all those things. And at that time, I needed some funding to help get me off the ground with the new business that I wanted to venture into. And the sister, she had helped get me a PPP loan the legitimate way, not like how a lot of people's out here scamming and doing things the wrong way, not the legitimate way. And I got that through my brother, though, through the streets. So my brother seeing me having a pure heart, man, and really want to change around my life, he was like, yo, well, this sister's doing this the legitimate way. I know what you're doing, King. I'm going to turn you on to her. So that was also a blessing during that time of that hardship for me, and that trial where I was real tempted to get back in and doing business with my brother because I'm seeing how well he's doing, and he's taking his trips and living the life that, we want to live. We young men, we having fun. But me being steadfast, man, and me just being patient and saying, nah, I really did find something that I know is better, and not just better, but the truth. And sticking to that, I was able to get a blessing mid 2021 with that PPP loan, and also even helped out my blood sister because she has her own legitimate business out there in Charlotte, North Carolina, as a seamstress. I turned her on to the sister who's an accountant, so we both end up getting blessed through my brother, from the streets, but him seeing the purity and me changing myself, him seeing that in me and putting me on to that sister. So it was a blessing, man. So all praises due to Allah for that.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, sir. And I want to thank you both because you really gave, our people insight, and it's a blessing in this day and time to give people insight about what Islam has done and continuing to do for them. At this time, I'm going to take us to our announcements before we go to our Muhammad moment. So, family, if you enjoyed what you heard today, I'm sure you have. You were invited to study with the Nation of Islam to learn the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As you can see, what Islam has done for our brothers, it can do for you as well. So you can go to www.noi.org/go study. Final Call Radio, you can download on all your devices. Take it with you on the go when you're doing your errands, you're taking your children to school, you're going to work. Just have it in your ear with everything that's going on. It's definitely a blessing to be able to listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan 24/7. And speaking of the Final Call, you can actually get the newspaper. You see the cover right there, The Troubled World. If you really want to know what's going on in this world, definitely go to Black Media, support Black Media. Final Call, you can go to finalcall.com. You can get the Final Call from one of our brothers on the street. Definitely don't forget about our brothers and sisters behind bars. You can actually get them a Final Call subscription as well, because as we know, they can lock them up physically, but they cannot lock them up mentally. And last but not least, do you want a book that greatly empowers your child and showcases their self-worth? Look no further than I Never Knew I'm All That, Book 1. This highly anticipated book is written by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, and it will give our children what they're looking for and affirm their child's needs. You can get this book on Amazon.com. And again, it's written by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, illustrations by Sister Amina Lay. And I believe we have one more announcement. Next week, as we said earlier in the show, next week is our Holy Day of Atonement, and you can definitely tune in. The topic is atonement and repentance. Who of the presidential candidates can save the lives of the people of America from the wrath of God? And it will be delivered by our assistant minister, Ishmael Muhammad. It's going to be delivered at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in the mosque in Richmond, Virginia, you can call 1-800-450-7836, or you can go to the address at 801 Prince Hall Drive in Richmond, Virginia, 23224. If you are in other states, you can actually go to NOI.org to find the local mosque in your state where you can tune into this message. And then, of course, go to www.noi.org. And at this time, I will turn it over to Brother Wesley Muhammad, who is going to introduce our Muhammad moment, and then we will close out. Brother Wesley?
Yes, ma'am. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I like to greet the WHID-FM listening and viewing audience with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. First, before we get into our Muhammad moment, I would like to thank Brother Zaire and Brother Vernon for coming on and sharing their beautiful journey in Islam and showing what Islam has done and is continuing to do for them. Would definitely like to thank them for joining on. I know the chat was on fire and we were seeing so many great comments and great aspirational things that they were saying about you two brothers. So we know that the work that you're doing is definitely not going unnoticed. So keep up the good work, my brothers. Also, I'd like to thank Sister Janine and Brother West for co-hosting and asking those beautiful questions, which brought out their journey and what they was able to share for us. That is inspiring those that were watching and those that will see the replay as well, and help them, if they have not already started, begin their journey in Islam. And if they're on that path, continuing to strive hard in this beautiful cause of Allah. We also would like to thank our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, and all he does to put this platform together of WHID-FM. What has Islam done for me? We'd definitely like to thank his wife as well, his support system, and being able to do all she does behind the scenes to help Brother Donald Muhammad put this together as well. And we definitely, if it was not for the coming of God in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, the one true and living God, we would not know about Islam. And if it wasn't for him raising and teaching the living and exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and those two leaving in our midst a divine leader, teacher, and God, the Messiah in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we would not have anything to speak about when it comes to Islam. So we thank those three beautiful men for all that they've done for us to have Islam in North America. The Savior's Tour was in Richmond, Virginia yesterday. So we want to thank all of the brothers that came out. There were many cities that were represented: Detroit, New York, New Jersey, Baltimore, Roanoke, Norfolk, Martinsville, Charlotte, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. All of the brothers that came out yesterday to be able to help us go soldier in our city here in Richmond, Virginia. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you, as we was able to definitely bring the presence of the Nation of Islam, and the fruit of Islam being seen in the streets was definitely received very well by the people. So we thank our brothers for coming out and doing all that they do as well to help us in our city. Our Muhammad moment tonight is brought to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the beautiful lecture entitled Seek Refuge in Allah. This was delivered August 10th, 1986 at the Final Call Administration Building. You can get this lecture and many lectures from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at store.finalcall.com. Again, that is store.finalcall.com. You can get this lecture, Seek Refuge in Allah, and many lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So let's enjoy tonight's Muhammad moment.
And if
he had seen the hereafter, he would have spoken about it. But he was made to say from the Quran, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor has it even entered into the heart of man to conceive what lies beyond the end of this world. That's right. Well, why do the Bible writers in the Bible say, seal up the book and write no more? What power came in on them that they couldn't write anymore, and they were told to seal the book? In their vision, this is the first cycle of time that never lasted or never could be seen beyond the 16,000 years. The writers of this cycle of history didn't see 25,000. They couldn't see. Their light was blinded because they saw the birth of a man coming up whose light was so great it blotted out their ability to see. And don't you know, when you're in light like this, it enables you to see. Is that right? But there's another light that can be shown on you that is so bright that it blots out this light and then blinds your eyes. So it is with the birth of the Mahdi. When they saw him coming, the light around him was so great they couldn't even see beyond him. So this cycle of history is only limited to 16,000 years, and the last 6,000 years of it is perfectly documented in the Quran, and the Quran leads you right up to the door of the hereafter, but it does not admit you in. Neither does the Bible. The Bible ends with a lamb on Mount Zion with 144,000 singing as it were a new song. They don't even tell you what the song was because they didn't know what it was. All they could say that a new heaven and a new earth was coming. But what will the new heaven look like? They fancied up things. But the reality of it they couldn't see. Well, suppose on a high level, you are a scientist and your wisdom is being interfered with. How will you react? You see, because on the upper level of things, humanity acts the same on another level as we act on the lower level. There are human beings on the upper level who get mastered by their own, the fire of their desires. This may be a little bit much, but take it anyway. Take it anyway. Why do you get the story in the Bible of Lucifer being cast out of heaven? It says there was war in heaven. Well, how would you know where such war was if you were not in heaven? Somebody would have to tell you about that war. If Allah didn't record in the Quran what was going on among the angels, how would you know? So he gives you a peep into some disgruntledness among the angels in the Quran. He gives you a peep into the attitude of Iblis in a heavenly state. And why didn't Iblis want to submit? Iblis said, I'm better than him. That thought that I am better caused them to forget who ordered him to bow down. So the lust, the fire of thinking you're better, that's a fire that can consume your ability to reason. Some of us in this world think we're better because we're white. See? Who are you? You're from Africa? I'm better than you. Why are you better? I'm from Europe. I'm an American white man. That's a fire that consumes and destroys your ability to reason. So when some black person comes up out of the norm of what your mind has perceived that you're better than, it blows your mind. You can't deal with it. So if you can't deal with him, then you have to destroy him, because
to destroy him keeps you sane. But if you can't destroy him, you lose all control. That's what's wrong with Reagan now. That's what's wrong with white folks now. That's what's wrong with Jews right now. A black man came up. They said, oh, just another nigger. What's his name? Louis Farragut? Louis Farragut? Who does that nigger think he is? We've knocked down mighty men before him. Who does he think he is? We'll give him a blast of our power. So when they blasted, and it wasn't in God's plan that I dry up and blow away, they backed up and said, good God, maybe we didn't use it right. Let's heat it up more and blast him again. And when they blasted me the second time, the crowds got bigger and bigger. They said, good God, there's something we can't deal with. So you begin to see them acting like insane people because Farrakhan is out of the norm of the black people that they deal with or the Arab that they deal with. There's something about the man and who made him that's frightening them. And the more I exist, I drive them crazy because I'm out of the norm. I'm out of the way that you can handle me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not only am I out of the norm for Jews, I'm out of the norm for black leaders. So the black leaders have always understood how to deal with another black leader until Elijah Muhammad came along. When Elijah Muhammad came along, they said, we don't know how to handle him. And they thought when he departed from us, it was all over, they could take the show. But now a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has come up and challenged their master that all the black leaders bow down to. And they don't know how I'm standing. So their minds are going crazy. They're set on fire now with envy and jealousy because they can't understand a man seeking refuge in God. They don't know when a man puts on the whole armor of God, there is no power in the heavens above or in the earth beneath that can handle that kind of man. All of us can be handled. There are none of us too wise to be handled by that crooked deceiver that has power today. But if you take refuge in God and submit yourself to him and bow down to him and shun that which is vain, then you got power to move. You're in the world, but you're not of it. And the world can't handle you anymore.
All praises due to Allah. We're going to now turn over to Brother West to close us out in prayer.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Attention prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahman Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, family.
I want you to understand that know the time. It's time that we are